What if I told you some people are going to hurt you and they're not going to apologize? Would you still forgive? What if I told you some people are going to hurt you and they're not even going to care? Would you still forgive? What if I told you some people are going to know that you've already been through pain and they're either going to hurt you the same way, if not more, right? Would you still forgive? You know, a lot of my journey, on this journey that I've been on, I realized that I was actually harboring and holding in a lot of anger and a lot of resentment for situations that I've been in my life and things that people have done to me that they never apologized for, never acknowledged, or even blame me for it, right? So I wanted to create an episode where we can talk about how to get to a place of forgiveness even when you don't get the proper acknowledgement, the proper apologies, or the proper closures. So everybody grab your papers, pens, and notepads, and let's get into it. So for the longest, I had a hard time with forgiveness. I'm not even gonna lie to you all. I had a very hard time with forgiving people because in my logic when it came to forgiving people was that if I forgave somebody who did something to me, it was almost like I was being disloyal to myself, right? And it wasn't that I was the type of person to, hold grudges or want revenge or anything like that. No, I don't believe in that. I believe people will get their karma. You just let bygones be bygones. But when it came to actually forgiving and not holding on to things, I had a very hard time with that. And I didn't realize it until one day I just broke down crying out of nowhere. And I'm like, hold on. God, why do I feel this way? Why am I still feeling all of this anger inside of me? And I didn't know how to let go of it. I'm like, God, what do I need to do to let go of this pain? And that's first things first. You have to actually want to let go of the baggage that you're holding on to, right? If you're continuing to stay stuck on things in the past, you're going to stay stuck. You're going to stay, basically in a stagnant place of thinking. So it got to a point where I said, I gotta let this go. So how am I going to do that? The first step for me was actually taking myself out of a victim mindset. Yes, I had to literally take myself out of a victim mindset because here I was saying what everybody else had done to me. This person hurt me, that I went through this situation, everything was about me, me, me. And so I realized that I actually was stuck in an ego state of mind. So I had to think bigger. I had to think outside of myself. And I had to say, you know what, Hannah? You have also hurt other people just as well. So the same way people have hurt you and said things to you that have hurt your feelings or broke your self-esteem, those sorts of things, you have also done that in return. And I had to have a reality check with myself because I started thinking about all the things that I have done over my lifetime. And I was like, you know what? I have said things to other people that maybe could have broken their self-esteem or made them feel less than who they really were. And I had to realize that I had to humble myself. That's one. So we need to humble ourselves and take ourselves out of a victim mindset and realize that hurt people really do hurt people. And while other people have done things to me, I have done things to other people as well. So I had to question myself. Hannah, when you were in that state of mind, doing hurtful things to other people, how were you feeling about yourself? And I thought about it and I was like, wow, I was talking from a place of hurt, right? I was talking from a place of lack of self-love, lack of self-compassion. When I realized that I too have done things to other people because of lack of self-love and lack of self-compassion, maybe instead of me playing victim and acting like everything is happening to me and everybody's doing something to me, maybe I need to humble myself and say, you know what? Maybe that person hurt me because they were hurting at the time. Maybe they had gone through a specific trauma in their lifetime that they never told me about. And maybe they still had pent up hurt and pent up anger inside of them as well, just as I did. So once I realized that, it allowed for me to then have a little bit more compassion. When we say compassion, let's change it with understanding. I know when I say compassion, a lot of people think, just being so nice and rainbows and unicorns and happy-go-lucky. No. When I say compassion, I really mean understanding. Because you can't get to a place of forgiveness until you have some sort of understanding, or in other words, like we're saying, compassion for someone else, right? Once you realize that people are really hurting because of unexpressed emotions and pain that they're holding on to, you stop taking everything so personal. That's another point I want to make. We have to stop taking everything so personal. Everything in this life is not happening to you. Life doesn't owe you shit. Life doesn't owe you anything. People don't owe you that love. People don't owe you that respect that you're looking for. You have to have it inside of yourself, so that way when people fall short on giving you that, you have your own supply to lean back on. So that was a very important lesson for me. First, for me to even get to a place of moving to forgiveness is stepping outside of myself and realizing that, hey, we all kind of do the same things from time to time. I may not hurt you in the same way you hurt me. You may not hurt me in the same exact way I hurt you, but we all have done it. I had to stop being a baby about it, and I had to suck it up, and I had to say, you know what? I need to be stronger than this. I can't take everything so personal. So that was one. Then once I shifted my perspective to that mindset, I started realizing, hey, this actually makes a lot of sense to me. That person probably needed the love that I needed at the time. Really, it's just another form of communication. We always think that everybody's supposed to be happy-go-lucky 24/8, but we're multi-dimensional human beings. We go through all kinds of emotions. That's life. That's how it's going to be. So instead of judging each other for every emotion that we go through, why don't we start taking those emotions and learning that that is a form of communication just as well, right? If someone is not happy, that's an indication that either you did something or something is wrong, and maybe you could either help that person or figure out a solution. You just have to be reminded that what we're looking for, go back to the foundation episode, right? What you're looking for all starts within. Another point that actually helped me get to a place of forgiveness was gratitude. It's a bug. I love nature, y'all, but these insects, they do not play. This is their territory, right? So I can't even be mad. Another point that I had to get to when it came to getting to a place of forgiveness was really getting to a place of gratitude, right? I know a lot of y'all are thinking, how can you be grateful for, bad things that have happened to you? Why can't you? In this life, we always talk about duality, which is good and bad. But what I've noticed is that you can't have one without the other. You're never going to have one without the other. You're never going to have just positive. You're going to have a negative element in life just as much. And I started realizing that we actually need both. We need the good and the bad, because if we didn't go through bad situations, how would we grow? If we didn't have situations that hurt us, how would we become stronger? If we didn't have situations in life because what I've realized is that pain is actually the best teacher for me. I learn a lot when I'm going through pain, because it's reflecting back onto me different lessons that I need to learn, once again, about myself, right? So in order for me to get to a place of forgiveness, I had to get to a place of gratitude. And I started saying, you know what, God, thank you for allowing me to go through that situation. Thank you for allowing me to go through that situation. I started being grateful for how people treated me, because if they didn't treat me that way, I wouldn't know that I needed to go back and get more self-love for myself. I wouldn't know that I needed to nurture myself more. The way that you're going to get to forgiveness is by being grateful for every situation that you encounter in this life, for the good and the bad, because you're never going to have one without the other. Think about it. If you've never gone through a situation where you felt bad, how would you know what being strong feels like? Pain is actually really beautiful when you think about it. Pain is a teacher. I think of pain like splatter paint, right? When you think of splatter paint, you see paint just everywhere. But in the end, it turns out looking like a masterpiece, right? You ever seen a photo of splatter paint and you're like, wow, that's so beautiful. But splatter paint is like a form of therapy. You could be splattering paint, angry, mad, happy. Like, it's just a form of different emotions, right? And so I started realizing that that's really how pain has played out in my life. It's messy, it's everywhere, it's jumbled, it's whatever, right? But in the end, that pain is what has molded me into the person that I am today. When you hit rock bottom, be grateful for that. If you never hit rock bottom, would you know what it means? Would you truly appreciate how to get back up? And lastly, I want to say that when it comes to forgiving people, you don't necessarily need people to tell you sorry. Because I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes if you're waiting for an apology, you might not ever get that. You might not ever get an apology, right? That has happened to me in my life. I was waiting for people to apologize and they ain't never apologized. So I was like, you know what? So while they're moving on and happy and jolly with their lives, why would I be still sitting here stuck with that pain sitting on my heart and sitting on my chest when it's time for me to let that baggage go? Ask yourself, what did these situations teach you? What did you learn out of these situations? So that way you can make sure that you don't repeat these cycles again. These situations in life are to teach you so you're not repeating cycles over and over and over again. And so when I say forgive, it's never for the other person. In fact, it's mostly for you, right? Because forgiveness is so that you can let that pain off of your body. And I don't think a lot of people realize that when we harbor and hold in emotions and we don't let them go and we don't appreciate them, when we don't sit with them and we don't feel them, that really is detrimental to our health. I started realizing that the more I held on to stress and the more I held on to anger, my body was reflecting that as well. I would feel sluggish, I would feel a little tired, I would feel heavy. As I started getting into a place of forgiveness, these ducks are so beautiful. Look, y'all, hold on. I'm so grateful for nature. Nature just reminds you to be thankful. That's so beautiful. I had a good friend of mine. She told me like a long time ago that in order to forgive someone, you don't necessarily need to have them come back into your life. And I was really conflicted by that because I didn't understand what she meant at the time. You know, to me, I thought forgiveness was letting people back in over and over and over again, right? If I forgive you, come on back, right? Then I started realizing she was absolutely correct. You don't have to forgive people for them, and you don't forgive people to let them back in. Think about it. If we're here to learn lessons, right? And you've already gone through a lesson, and you've already learned to forgive, why do you need to keep letting that same lesson back into your life? You've learned the lesson. Now it's time to move on. And I don't think that we realize that a lot of things in this life are actually temporary. My dad told me that a lot growing up. He actually drilled that in my head, and I'm so appreciative for my dad because he always told me, Hannah, everything in this life is temporary. And it's actually true. When it's time for certain friendships to end, when it's time for certain relationships to end, when it's time for jobs to end, when it's time for you to elevate to the next level, you have to be ready to let go. If everything is temporary in this life, there's no reason for you to hold on. There's no reason to hold on to attachments. Why? If you already have learned your lesson, don't keep repeating it. You learn forgiveness when you're going through those shitty situations, those situations that aren't that good, right? It's like, damn, that's the test, right? Sometimes that's what the test is to learn how to forgive. I'm one of those people where I block people, but it's just like, just because I blocked them and got rid of the problem doesn't mean that I didn't let go of how it made me feel. And so I started realizing that it's not about me. God has created situations for you to go through so that way you can get closer to Him. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I was watching a video the other day and it had a very good perspective, and the guy in the video was basically saying how, so if we know that God created the devil, we know that you're going to go through good and bad situations and it's all controlled by God. I'm gonna be honest with you. That was for me. I'm not gonna say all of us, but for me, growing up, I didn't really have faith in God because I would always wonder, why do bad things happen to good people? That was like one of my big questions. I didn't understand, why do bad things happen to good people? Then I realized it's not about you being a good person or bad person. It's about the system of how God wants things to work. You're going to have good and bad. So you're going to go through situations where you need to grow. You need to evolve. So if you don't have the negative situations in life, you're not going to grow. So that's why bad things, quote unquote, happen to good people, because good people, like anybody else, we all need to evolve. We all need to grow closer and have a higher consciousness so that way we can get closer to God. Those are really the main points that I didn't want to make this video too long because it's really, not that much to say. It's very easy when you think about it. We got to start being grateful for every situation that we go through. We have to stop taking everything so personal. We have to remove ourselves from always being in an ego state of mind and thinking that this life owes us things. This life doesn't owe us anything. It's truly a blessing to be alive. It's a blessing to go through these experiences. It's a blessing to be able to feel. It's a blessing to be able to have emotions. We're the only creatures on this earth who have emotions. So why don't we start taking advantage of that? Why don't we start using that to our benefit? I hope everybody was able to get something out of this video. If you were, I hope it helps you get to a place of forgiveness, just like I'm still learning on how to get to forgiveness, because it is a process, right? It's not something that's going to happen overnight. But if you found something in this video that can help you, thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe. And remember to tell a friend to tell another friend so that we can all help each other. Thank you.